Park Ji-ho had not slept in 3 days. His eyes burned. His coffee had gone cold 6 hours ago. And now, standing in the main hall of the United Nations building in Seoul, he was about to become the most famous translator in human history. He just didn't know it yet. The Corvani warship had appeared in Earth's sky exactly 72 hours ago. It was massive, dark, and shaped like a blade. Every military on the planet had pointed their weapons at it. Every scientist had tried to communicate with it. Every religious leader had said something about the end times. And every normal person had simply looked up and thought the same thing. We are not alone. The Corvani had sent a simple message. They would send representatives. They would speak. Humanity would listen. Now, Ji-ho stood near the back of the Great Hall, trying not to fall asleep on his feet. He was not supposed to be here. He was a junior translator, usually assigned to boring trade documents. But the main AI translation system had crashed that morning. Then the backup had failed. Then the senior translator had fainted from stress. So here was Ji-ho, holding a tablet with hastily downloaded Corvani language files, praying he wouldn't destroy human civilization before lunch. The doors opened. Ji-ho had seen pictures of the Corvani from the initial broadcasts. He thought he was prepared. He was wrong. Commander Vela Thanis walked into the room like she owned it. Because, Ji-ho realized, she probably could. She stood 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Her hair was silver, pulled back tight from her face. Her eyes were violet, cold, and looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. She wore black armor that covered her from neck to toe, and even from across the room, Ji-ho could see the scars on her hands. This was not a diplomat. This was a warrior. Behind her walked 6 more Corvani, all tall, all armored, all terrifying. They moved in perfect formation, their boots making no sound on the marble floor. The human delegates sat frozen in their seats. Someone dropped a glass of water. No one moved to clean it up. Vela stopped at the center of the room. She looked around slowly, her violet eyes taking in every face, every camera, every soldier trying to hide their shaking hands. Then she spoke. Her voice was deep and smooth, like thunder heard from far away. The words were Corvani, flowing and sharp at the same time. Ji-ho's tablet lit up, showing translations. But they came too slow, too broken. He could barely keep up. She was talking about the Corvani Empire, about how they had watched Earth for centuries, about how humanity had finally developed enough technology to be worth noticing. It was not exactly a compliment. Ji-ho translated as fast as he could, his voice cracking through the speakers. He could feel sweat running down his back. Every word mattered. One mistake could mean war. Vela continued. She spoke of treaties, of conditions, of what humanity must do to be considered acceptable by galactic standards. Her tone was flat, bored almost, like she was reading a grocery list instead of deciding the fate of an entire species. Then she paused. She turned her head slightly, and for one terrible moment, her violet eyes met Ji-ho's. She was waiting for his translation. The whole room was waiting. Ji-ho opened his mouth. His brain, exhausted beyond all reason, chose this exact moment to betray him. He had been looking at her face while she spoke. At the way her silver eyebrows pulled together when she emphasized certain words. At the slight tilt of her head. At the tiny flash of something frustration, maybe in her eyes when the human delegates whispered among themselves. She looked, his tired brain decided, almost cute when she was annoyed. Like an angry cat. A very large, very deadly, alien cat. He meant to think this. He did not mean to say it out loud, but the microphone was on. The microphone was always on. And in the sudden silence of the great hall, his muttered words rang out like a gunshot. Why does the scary alien lady look so cute when she's angry? The room went completely still. Jiho's blood turned to ice. He watched, in slow motion, as the universal translators on every Corvani's wrist beeped softly. As Vela's eyes widened, as her pale blue skin began to change color, deepening to a dark indigo that spread from her cheeks to her neck to the tips of her pointed ears. She was blushing. The fearsome commander of the Third Fleet, terror of 12 star systems, was blushing. No one knew what to do. The human delegates looked at each other in horror. The other Corvani looked at their commander with expressions that might have been shock. One of them made a strange choking sound that could have been a laugh, quickly hidden. Jiho wanted to die. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. He wanted to go back in time and tell his past self to become a farmer. Anything but a translator. The Korean president was already standing, his face pale. Commander Thanos, I apologize deeply for this insult. This translator will be immediately removed, and… No. Vela's voice cut through the room. She had not moved. Her skin was still that deep indigo color. Her hands, Jiho noticed, were clenched into fists at her sides. Everyone will leave, she said. Her voice was strange now, tight with something Jiho couldn't identify. Except him, the small human who speaks nonsense. He stays. The president looked like he might faint. Commander, I really must insist. This is not a request. There was no arguing with that voice. One by one, the delegates filed out. The other Corvani followed, though one of them, a tall male with scars across his face, shot Jiho a look that might have been pity, or maybe amusement. It was hard to tell, with aliens. The doors closed. Jiho was alone, with Vela Thanos. She stared at him. He stared at the floor. The silence stretched on, forever. Cute, she finally said. The word sounded strange in her accent, like she was tasting it. You called me cute. Jiho nodded miserably. I'm very sorry. I haven't slept in 3 days. My brain isn't working properly. It was completely inappropriate, and I understand if you want to declare war on Earth because honestly I would too. Stop talking. He stopped. Vela took a step closer. Then, another. She was so tall that Jiho had to crane his neck to look at her face. This close, he could see that her eyes were not just violet. They had tiny flecks of silver in them, like stars. In my language, she said slowly, there is no word for cute. The closest translation means something small, weak, helpless, something to be protected because it cannot protect itself. Her eyes narrowed. Is that what you meant? Jiho's survival instincts finally kicked in. No, that's not what cute means. I mean, it can mean that, but not the way I meant it. When humans say cute, we mean… He struggled to find the words. We mean something that makes your heart feel warm, something precious, something that makes you want to smile just by looking at it. Vela stared at him for a long moment. Something precious, she repeated. Yes, something that makes you want to smile. Yes. Her indigo blush somehow deepened. That is… different. Jiho nodded quickly. Very different, completely different. A compliment, actually. In human culture. Another long silence. Then Vela did something unexpected. She pulled out a small device and spoke into it rapidly, in Corvani. Jiho's tablet translated. Cancel the evening briefing. I require a cultural attaché. The small human will do. Send the paperwork. She looked at him again. You will teach me about humans. Their words. Their customs. Their strange concept of cute. It was not a question. Jiho opened his mouth to say that he was just a junior translator, that he wasn't qualified, that there had clearly been some mistake. Instead, he heard himself say, okay. That night, alone in her quarters on the warship, Vela replayed the recording of Jiho's words 17 times. She did not understand why. She told herself it was for research purposes. She was lying. The paperwork arrived at Jiho's apartment at 6 in the morning. A Corvani soldier delivered it personally, nearly giving Jiho's elderly neighbor a heart attack. The documents were thick, written in both Korean and Corvani, and essentially said that Park Jiho now belonged to Commander Velathanis for cultural education purposes. His boss called him 20 minutes later. "What did you do?" "I called her cute," Jiho said miserably. "You called the most dangerous warrior in the known galaxy cute." "Yes." There was a long pause. "Well." The phone went dead. Jiho showered, dressed in his most professional clothes, and reported to the Corvani embassy that had been set up overnight in central Seoul. The building had been a hotel before. Now it was surrounded by Corvani guards and nervous Korean soldiers who were trying very hard to look calm. Vela was waiting for him in what used to be the presidential suite. She sat on a chair that was too small for her, looking deeply uncomfortable. When Jiho entered, she stood immediately, and he noticed that she had changed out of her armor into something simpler, a dark gray uniform that still managed to look military. "You are late," she said. Jiho checked his watch. "I'm 5 minutes early. Corvani arrived 15 minutes before the scheduled time. To arrive only 5 minutes early is late. That's okay." Vela nodded sharply. Then she pulled out a small tablet and began reading from it. "I have prepared questions about human culture. You will answer them honestly. Lying to a Corvani commander is punishable by death." Jiho felt his stomach drop. "I'll be very honest." "Good." She looked at her tablet. "First question. Why do humans show their teeth when they are happy?" Jiho blinked. "You mean smiling?" "Yes, smiling." She said the word like it tasted strange. In Corvani culture, showing teeth is a threat display. It means you are preparing to bite. But humans do this when they are pleased. It is very confusing. Jiho thought about how to explain this. For us, smiling is a way to show we are not a threat. It's the opposite of what it means for you. When we smile, we're saying, "I'm happy. I'm friendly. I won't hurt you." Vela frowned. "But you are showing your teeth." "Your teeth are weapons. Human teeth aren't really weapons. We can't bite through much. Our teeth are mostly for food." "Ah." Vela made a note on her tablet. "So humans smile because they are weak and must show they are not threatening." "That's..." "Not exactly." Jiho sighed. "Sure. Close enough." The questions continued for hours. Why did humans wear clothes of so many colors? Why did they touch each other so often? Why did they make sounds with their mouths that served no purpose? And Jiho realized she meant laughing. Each answer seemed to confuse her more. Around noon, Jiho's stomach growled loudly. Vela stopped mid-question and stared at him. "What was that sound?" "I'm hungry," Jiho said. "I haven't eaten today." Vela looked horrified. "You require food? Already? But you ate last night." "Humans eat 3 times a day. Sometimes more. 3 times." She looked at him like he had said something impossible. "Corvani eat once every 3 days. Your species is incredibly inefficient." Jiho shrugged. "We're also incredibly good at finding food. It balances out." Vela stood up. "We will find you food. I will observe human eating customs." This was how Jiho ended up walking through a Seoul street market with a 7-foot alien warrior at his side. People stopped and stared. Some took pictures. A few ran away. But most just watched with wide eyes as Velathanis, terror of the Third Fleet, examined a display of dried squid with deep suspicion. "You eat these?" she asked. "They're actually pretty good," Jiho said. "Want to try one?" Vela picked up a dried squid with 2 fingers, holding it like it might attack her. She sniffed it carefully. Then, with great dignity, she took a small bite. Her face did something complicated. "It is. Not terrible." From Vela, Jiho was learning. This was high praise. They walked further into the market. Jiho explained street food, bargaining, and why that man was yelling about his fish being the freshest. Vela listened carefully, her violet eyes taking in everything. She seemed particularly disturbed by how close people walk to each other. "They are within striking distance," she said quietly. "All of them. Any one of these humans could attack another at any moment. They won't, though," Jiho said. "Trust," she said the word like it was foreign. "You trust strangers? Mostly, not always. But enough to walk through a crowded market without armor." Vela was quiet for a moment. "Corvani, do not trust. Trust is weakness. You can only rely on your own strength." Jiho thought about this. "That sounds lonely." She didn't answer. They stopped at a small stall run by an elderly woman who was selling Taitok's sweet rice cakes. The woman looked up at Vela without fear, which was surprising. Most people at least flinched. "Oh my," the old woman said, smiling widely. "You're very pretty. So tall. Like a model." Vela went completely still. Her skin began to shift toward indigo. Jiho stepped in quickly. "She's saying you look nice. It's a compliment." "Another one," Vela said. Her voice sounded strange. "Another human thinks I am aesthetically pleasing?" "You are," the old woman said, apparently understanding more than she let on. She held up a rice cake. "Here, pretty girl. Free for you. You're too thin." Vela looked at the rice cake. Then at the old woman. Then at Jiho. She seemed completely lost. "Take it," Jiho said gently. "It's rude to refuse." Vela took the rice cake like it was a live grenade. "Thank you?" the old woman beamed. "Good girl. Come back anytime. Bring your boyfriend." This time, both Vela and Jiho turned red. They walked away in awkward silence. Vela ate the rice cake slowly, her expression thoughtful. Finally, she spoke. "Boyfriend. This word means romantic partner, yes?" "Yes," Jiho said, his face still burning. She was joking. "Old women here like to tease young people about romance." "Ah." Vela was quiet for a moment. "And am I pretty?" The question caught Jiho off guard. He looked at her, really looked. At her sharp features, her silver hair catching the afternoon light, her violet eyes that seemed softer now than they had in the UN building. "Yes," he said honestly. "You are." Her skin flushed indigo again. She looked away quickly. "This is strange. No one has ever called me pretty or cute. In 200 years, no one has ever said such things to me." 200 years? Jiho's eyes widened. "How old are you?" "I am 243 years old. This is young for a Corvani." Jiho tried to process this. "I'm 28. Vela looked at him with something like horror. 28? You are practically a baby. How long do humans live?" "2. About 80 years, sometimes more." The horror in her eyes deepened. 80 years. That is nothing. That is a single breath. She stopped walking and stared at him. "You will die so soon." Jiho shrugged uncomfortably. "I mean, not tomorrow, hopefully. But yes, humans don't live very long by your standards." Vela was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. "Then, every moment is precious to you." "I guess so. We don't really think about it that way. Perhaps you should." She looked at the crowded market, at the humans laughing and talking and buying food they would eat 3 times today. "Perhaps that is why you smile. Why you trust. Why you call things cute." She paused. "Because you do not have time to be afraid." Jiho had never thought about it like that before. Maybe. That night, Vela contacted her second-in-command back on the warship. His name was Koral, and he had served with her for 50 years. "The humans are strange," she told him. "They are weak. They eat 3 times a day. They live less than a century. And yet, Coral prompted. They gave me free food because an old woman thought I was pretty. They smile at strangers. They walk through crowds without armor. She paused. They are either completely insane, or they are running the most elaborate psychological operation in galactic history. Endico. Quote, they are either completely insane. Coral was quiet for a moment. And the translator? The one who called you cute? One. Vela's face flushed. What about him? You have spent the entire day with him. You requested him specifically for cultural research. Of course. Coral's voice was carefully neutral. Commander, when you speak of him, you are changing color. I am not. You are. Right now. Vela ended the call abruptly. Alone in her quarters, she pressed a hand to her chest. There was a strange feeling there, warm and uncomfortable at the same time. It had started when Jiho said she was pretty. It got worse when he looked at her with those soft human eyes that held no fear. It was probably a human disease. She would have the medics examine her tomorrow. For now, she would replay the recording of him calling her cute. Just a few more times. Just for research. 3 weeks passed, and Vela Thanis was falling apart. She didn't show it, of course. She was a Corvani warrior. She had led armies into battle. She had faced death 100 times without flinching. But now, sitting in a small Korean restaurant and watching Jiho teach her how to use chopsticks, she felt more confused than she had ever felt in 243 years. The feeling in her chest had not gone away. The medics had examined her twice. They found nothing wrong. Perhaps it is psychological, one of them had suggested, carefully. Vela had nearly thrown him out of an airlock. It was not psychological. It was something else. Something that happened every time Jiho smiled at her, or explained something patiently when she didn't understand, or looked at her like she was not a monster to be feared. Today, they were learning about Korean food. This was Jiho's idea. He said food was important to understanding a culture. Vela thought he just liked watching her struggle with unfamiliar eating tools. Hold them like this, he said, demonstrating with his own chopsticks. One stays still. The other one moves. Vela tried. The chopsticks slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the table. Several humans at nearby tables looked over and quickly looked away. This is absurd, Vela said. Why do you not simply use your hands? Or claws? These sticks are inefficient. We don't have claws, Jiho reminded her. And using your hands for everything is considered impolite in many cultures. Politeness. Vela picked up the chopsticks again. Another human concept I do not understand. Why do you care so much about what others think? Jiho considered this. Because we live together. In cities, in families, in communities. If everyone was rude and didn't care about others, society would fall apart. Politeness is how we keep things running smoothly. Corvani do not need politeness. We have hierarchy. You obey those above you. You command those below you. It is simple. But do you ever just talk to each other as equals? Vela paused. Equals are rare and dangerous. An equal can challenge you, can take what is yours. She finally managed to pick up a piece of meat with the chopsticks and brought it to her mouth triumphantly. Ha! I have conquered your eating tools. Just, Jiho grinned. Congratulations. You've achieved the skill level of a human 5-year-old. Your children can do this? Usually by age 4 or 5. Yes. Vela looked at her chopsticks with new respect. Your children are better trained than I thought. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Vela found herself watching the other humans in the restaurant. A family with 2 young children. A couple, holding hands across the table. A group of old men, laughing loudly over bottles of soju. They touch each other so much, she said quietly. Jiho looked up. Humans. They touch constantly. The family, the parents, keep touching their children's heads. The couple is holding hands. Even the old men keep slapping each other's shoulders. That's affection, Jiho said. And friendship. Touch is how we show we care about each other. In Corvani culture, touch is either violence or mating. There is nothing between. Jiho looked sad at this. That seems limited. It is efficient. Efficiency isn't everything. Vela didn't know how to respond to this. She watched the mother at the nearby table smooth her daughter's hair with gentle fingers. The child giggled and leaned into the touch like it was the most natural thing in the world. Something ached in Vela's chest. She didn't have a word for it. After lunch, they walked along the Han River. It was a beautiful day. Sunny and warm. Humans were everywhere, jogging, cycling, having picnics on the grass. A group of teenagers were playing music on portable speakers. An old man was flying a kite with his grandson. Your species wastes much time on purposeless activities, Vela observed. They're not purposeless, Jiho said. They're fun. Fun. Another word she didn't quite understand. Corvani do not have fun. We have training, duty, and rest. Don't you ever do anything just because it makes you happy? Vela thought about this seriously. I don't know. Jiho stopped walking. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. That's really sad, Vela. No one had ever called her by just her name before. No title, no rank, just Vela. I am not sad, she said automatically. I am a warrior. I have purpose. I have honor. But do you have happiness? The question hit her harder than any weapon ever had. She opened her mouth to answer, to say something fierce and dismissive. But the words wouldn't come. Did she have happiness? She had victory. She had respect. She had power. But happiness? She thought about the last 3 weeks. About learning human customs. About eating strange food. About walking through crowded markets with a man who called her cute without fear. She had been not unhappy. I don't know, she admitted finally. Jiho's eyes softened. Maybe we can work on that. That evening, Vela contacted Coral again. She needed to talk to someone who understood her. The humans are affecting me, she said without introduction. I am becoming strange. Strange how? I am thinking about purposeless things, about touch, about happiness. She paused. Today, the translator asked me if I was happy. I could not answer. Coral was silent for a long moment. Commander, I have known you for 50 years. You have never once spoken about happiness, because happiness is irrelevant. A warrior does not need happiness. Perhaps, Coral said carefully. Or perhaps you never allowed yourself to want it. Vela didn't answer. The translator, Coral continued. The one who called you cute. What is his name? Jiho. Park Jiho. And what do you feel when you are with this? Jiho? Vela closed her eyes. What did she feel? The warmth in her chest. The strange peace when he smiled. The way time seemed to slow down when he looked at her with those soft brown eyes. I feel. She struggled to find the words. Confused. Warm. Like I want to protect him from everything. Like I want him to never stop looking at me the way he does. Coral let out a long breath. Commander. Vela. I think you know what that feeling is. It is not that, she said quickly. It cannot be that. He is human. He is fragile. He will live less than a century. And yet, when you speak of him, your voice changes. Your face changes. I have never heard you speak of anyone this way. Vela pressed her hand to her chest. The warmth was there again, stronger than ever. I cannot feel this, she said. I am a commander. I have duties. I have responsibilities. This is weakness. Is it? Coral asked. Or is it strength? You never knew you had? She ended the call without answering. That night, Vela could not sleep. She lay in her quarters and thought about Park Jiho, about his gentle voice and his patient explanations and his stupid, beautiful, human smile. She thought about what he had said, about happiness, about whether she had it. She didn't. She had never had it. She had convinced herself she didn't need it. But now, after 3 weeks of walking through human cities and eating human food and talking to one particular human who looked at her like she was precious, now she wanted it. And that terrified her more than any battle ever had. On the other side of the city, Jiho lay awake too. He was thinking about the look in Vela's eyes when he asked about happiness, the vulnerability there, the loneliness. He was thinking about how his heart beat faster every time she was near, about how her purple blush was the most beautiful color he had ever seen, about how her voice, usually so stern, went soft when she was confused by something human. He was falling for her. He knew it. It was insane. She was an alien warrior. She could crush his skull with her thumb. She was 200 years old. But when she looked at him with those violet eyes, when she held chopsticks with the concentration of a child learning to write, when she blushed because an old woman called her pretty, she was the most amazing person he had ever met. His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. "When are you bringing your tall girlfriend home?" Jiho groaned and buried his face in his pillow. This was going to be complicated. The attack came without warning. One moment, Vela and Jiho were in the embassy's main hall, discussing the finer points of Korean poetry. The next, the windows exploded inward, and Corvani soldiers in unfamiliar armor poured into the building. Vela moved before Jiho could process what was happening. She grabbed him and threw him behind a marble pillar, shielding him with her body, as energy blasts scorched the air where they had been standing. "Stay down," she commanded, her voice suddenly the cold steel of a battlefield commander. "What's happening?" The burning hand. Vela's eyes scanned the attackers. A faction in the Empire. They believe any species that is not Corvani should be destroyed. They are against the peace talks. More soldiers flooded in. Jiho counted at least 20. Human embassy staff were screaming, running, hiding under tables. The Korean security guards tried to fight back, but their weapons seemed to have no effect on Corvani armor. Vela drew a blade from her belt. It was long, curved, and glowed with a faint blue light. "When I move, you run for the back exit. Do not stop. Do not look back. What about you?" She smiled then, a sharp, predatory expression that Jiho had never seen before. "I am about to remind these traitors why the Third Fleet fears my name." Then she moved. Jiho had seen videos of Corvani fighting. He thought he understood their capabilities. He was wrong. Vela was not a warrior. She was a force of nature. She flowed through the attackers like water, her blade singing through the air. 3 soldiers fell before they even knew she was among them. A 4th tried to aim a weapon at her. She broke his arm and used his body as a shield against his allies' fire. She was beautiful. She was terrifying. She was art in motion, but there were too many of them. Even as she fought, more poured in through the shattered windows. She took down 5, then 7, then 10, but they kept coming. And then one of them got lucky. A blast caught her in the side. Vela stumbled, and 2 soldiers grabbed her arms. She threw one off, but the other held on, and then 3 more were on her, forcing her to her knees. The leader of the attackers stepped forward. He was massive, even by Corvani standards, with a face full of scars and eyes full of hate. "Commander Thanos," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "The traitor who would make peace with animals." Vela spat at his feet. "Commander Harvick, the coward who attacks diplomatic missions instead of fighting real battles." Harvick backhanded her across the face. The sound echoed through the sudden silence of the hall. Jiho, still hiding behind the pillar, felt something hot and fierce rise in his chest. These creatures, Harvick gestured at the cowering human staff, are vermin. They breed like insects. They live for the blink of an eye. They have no strength, no claws, no natural weapons. He laughed. And you would have us treat them as equals? You disgust me. Vela raised her head. Blood dripped from her split lip. But her eyes were defiant. You understand nothing. You see weakness because you are too stupid to see strength. Harvick drew his own blade. I see a commander who has forgotten what it means to be Corvani. Perhaps I should remind you. He raised the blade, and Jiho stepped out from behind the pillar. Every head in the room turned toward him. The human staff stared in horror. The Corvani soldiers laughed. Harvick's scarred face twisted with amusement. And what is this? He looked Jiho up and down. Jiho's legs were shaking. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. Every instinct he had was screaming at him to run, to hide, to survive. But Vela was bleeding on the floor. Vela, who had taught him that happiness was something she had never experienced. Vela, who blushed purple when he called her cute. Vela, who was looking at him now with wide, horrified eyes. He stepped between Harvick and Vela. Move, Harvick said, no longer amused. Or, I will cut you down where you stand. No. The word came out stronger than Jiho expected. It surprised even him. Harvick tilted his head. What did you say? I said no. Jiho's voice was shaking, but he didn't move. You want to kill her? You go through me first. Laughter rippled through the Corvani soldiers. Even Harvick smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Brave little insect. Stupid, but brave. He stepped closer, towering over Jiho. Do you know what we call creatures like you in the Empire? Prey. You are soft. You are weak. You have no claws, no armor, no natural defenses. What could you possibly do against me? Jiho looked up at the massive warrior, at the blade in his hand, at certain death, and he smiled. You think we're weak because we're soft, he said. But you don't understand what soft means. Enlighten me then, before I kill you. Soft means we adapt, we change. When the world gets cold, we make fire. When predators hunt us, we make weapons. We don't need armor skin because we build armor. We don't need claws because we make blades sharper than anything that grows. Jiho took a deep breath. He could hear Vela struggling against the soldiers holding her. Jiho, no, she started. He kept talking. We've survived ice ages. We've survived plagues that killed half our population. We've survived wars that burned our cities to the ground. And you know what? We're still here. Not because we're the strongest or the fastest or the most dangerous, but because we never, ever give up. Harvick's smile had faded. Something uncertain flickered in his eyes. You say we're weak because we have short lives. But that means every moment matters. Every person matters. We don't have time to be afraid. We don't have time to be alone. We love hard because we die fast. Jiho's voice grew stronger. And we fight for the people we love, even when we can't win. Especially when we can't win. He spread his arms wide, standing completely unprotected before Harvick's blade. So go ahead, kill me. But I want you to remember this moment. Remember that a soft, weak, short-lived human looked death in the face and didn't run. Remember that we're not prey. We're not insects. We're the species that fights gods and monsters, and our own worst nature. And somehow, we keep surviving. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. We're not the ones you should be afraid of. We're the ones you should pray never have a reason to come after you. Silence. Absolute, complete silence. Then, from somewhere outside the building, a sound. A rumbling. Growing. Louder. Harvick looked toward the windows, and his face went pale. The human military had arrived. Not just Korean forces, Jiho could see American helicopters, Japanese jets, and flags from a dozen other nations. They had mobilized faster than anyone thought possible, and they were carrying weapons that definitely had not existed 3 weeks ago. "We've been reverse engineering your technology," Jiho said quietly. "Did you think we were just sitting around waiting to be conquered? We're soft, not stupid." An explosion rocked the building. The Corvani soldiers broke formation, suddenly uncertain. Their advanced armor, it seemed, was not as impenetrable as they had believed. In the chaos, Vela moved. Free from her distracted captors, she grabbed her fallen blade and cut through 3 soldiers before they knew what was happening. Human security forces, emboldened by the military support outside, surged forward with improvised weapons. Harvick turned to flee, but Vela was there, her blade at his throat. "You called them vermin," she said softly. "Insects. Prey." She glanced at Jiho, who was standing there looking shocked that he was still alive. "You were wrong. She didn't kill Harvick. She could have. Part of her wanted to. But she remembered what Jiho had taught her about human justice, about second chances, about being strong enough to show mercy. She knocked him unconscious instead. The battle was over in 20 minutes. The Burning Hand forces were captured or fled. Human military efficiency, combined with hastily adapted alien technology, proved devastatingly effective. Jiho sat on the floor, his back against the pillar, his whole body shaking. The adrenaline was fading, and the reality of what he had done was starting to hit him. He had stood up to an alien warrior. He had given a speech about humanity's strength. He had been ready to die. What was wrong with him? Vela walked over and sat down beside him. She was covered in blood. Most of it not her own. The wound in her side had been hastily bandaged. She looked exhausted, proud, and something else. She was looking at him the way no one had ever looked at him before. "That was the stupidest thing I have ever witnessed," she said. "I know. You could have died. I know. You are small and fragile and completely defenseless. I know." She reached out and took his hand. Her blue skin was warm against his. Her grip was gentle, careful, like she was holding something precious. "It was also the bravest thing I have ever seen," she said softly. "In 243 years of war and battle and death, I have never seen courage like that." Jiho looked at their joined hands, at her violet eyes, softer now than they had ever been, at the purple blush spreading across her cheeks. "I couldn't let him hurt you," he said simply. "Why? Such a small word. Such a huge question." Jiho knew the answer. He had known it for weeks. He was just too scared to say it. "Because you're worth fighting for," he said. "Even when I can't win. Especially when I can't win." Vela's blush deepened. She opened her mouth to respond, and the Korean military commander walked in, demanding a debrief. But she didn't let go of his hand. Not for a long time. The Corvani medical bay was cold and sterile, and smelled like nothing Jiho had ever experienced. He sat on an uncomfortable chair beside Vela's bed, watching her argue with the medical officer for the 3rd time that day. "I am fine," Vela insisted, trying to sit up. "The wound is minor. I have fought through far worse." "The wound is not minor, Commander." The medical officer, a stern Corvani woman named Thessa, pushed her back down. "The energy blast damaged 3 internal organs. You need rest." "I do not have time for rest. The human negotiations will continue without you for a few days." Thessa's eyes flickered to Jiho. "Your attaché has been visiting every day. He can keep you informed." Vela looked at Jiho. Her expression softened in a way that made Thessa raise an eyebrow. "Fine," Vela said. "I will rest. But only for 1 day. 5 days. 2, 4, 3. Thessa sighed heavily. 3 days. But if you try to leave early, I will sedate you personally." She left, shaking her head. Jiho watched her go, then turned back to Vela with a small smile. She's tough, he said. She has been my physician for 80 years. She does not fear me. Vela paused. I respect that. An awkward silence fell between them. It had been 3 days since the attack, and they hadn't talked about what happened. Not really. Not about Jiho's speech, or the way Vela had held his hand, or the words that had almost been spoken before the military commander interrupted. Jiho cleared his throat. I brought you something. He held up a bag. From the market. Remember the old woman who gave you tiak? She made these special. Said to tell the pretty tall girl to feel better soon. Vela's cheeks darkened slightly. She remembers me? You're kind of hard to forget. Vela took the bag and looked inside. The rice cakes were shaped like little flowers, pink and white and delicate. She stared at them for a long moment. Humans are strange, she finally said. An old woman who met me once sends me gifts when I am injured. Why? She gains nothing from this kindness. Maybe kindness is the point. Not everything has to be about gaining something. Vela ate a rice cake slowly. In Corvani culture, every action has purpose. Every gift creates obligation. Every kindness is a debt to be repaid. She paused. But humans, you give freely. You smile at strangers. You stand in front of armed warriors to protect those you care about. She looked at him, and her violet eyes were filled with something Jiho couldn't name. You stood in front of Harvick, she said quietly. You were ready to die for me. Yes. Why? The same question from before. The same answer he was terrified to give. Jiho looked at his hands. Vela, the medics say I am experiencing something called emotional attachment. Vela interrupted. Her voice was strange, almost uncertain. It is a condition Corvani are trained to suppress from childhood. It makes warriors weak, they say. Distracted. Vulnerable. Jiho looked up. Attachment to what? Vela met his eyes. To you. The words hung in the air between them. Jiho's heart was beating so fast, he thought it might explode. The symptoms began weeks ago, Vela continued, speaking faster now, like she was delivering a military report. Increased heart rate in your presence. Difficulty concentrating when you speak. A warm sensation in my chest that will not go away. I have replayed the recording of you calling me cute 73 times. I do not know why. 73 times? It started at 17. The number grew. Jiho laughed, half from nervousness and half from pure disbelief. I know what it is. She looked away, her blush deepening to a rich purple. I have avoided naming it. Naming things makes them real. And if it's real, then I am in trouble. She pressed her hand to her chest. Because you are human. You are fragile. You will live less than a century. And her voice cracked slightly. I am starting to think that if something happened to you, I would never recover. Jiho stood up. He walked to her bed and sat on the edge, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. I'm falling for you too, he said quietly. Vela went very still. I know it's insane, he continued. You're 7 feet tall. You're an alien warrior who could destroy entire armies. You're 200 years old, and I'm just me. A translator who accidentally called you cute and somehow didn't die. You are not just anything, Vela said fiercely. You are brave. You are kind. You see me as a person, not a weapon. Do you know how rare that is? I'm also human. I'll die in a few decades. Have you thought about that? I have thought of nothing else. Vela's voice was raw. Every moment with you is a reminder that I will outlive you. That this feeling in my chest will one day become grief. She paused. It should make me want to run away. To protect myself. Does it? She looked at him, and her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. Corvani probably didn't cry, but this was close. No, she whispered. It makes me want every moment even more. Jiho took her hand. Her blue skin was still warm, still gentle against his. Then, let's have every moment. All of them. Whatever time we get. Kringly, one sire. Kringly sire. Kringly sire. Vela squeezed his hand carefully, mindful of her strength. You would choose this? Knowing how it ends? The ending doesn't define the story, Jiho said. My grandmother used to say that. She and my grandfather had 50 years together before he died. She said she would do it all again, even knowing the pain at the end, because the love was worth it. Worth it, Vela repeated. Such a simple phrase for something so complicated. Maybe it's not that complicated. Maybe it's the simplest thing in the universe. They sat in silence for a while, holding hands, breathing together. Outside, Jiho could hear the distant sounds of the Corvani warship, the hum of alien technology, the footsteps of warriors who would never understand what their commander was feeling. I should call my mother, Jiho said finally. Vela looked alarmed. Why? Because she's been asking when I'm bringing my tall girlfriend home. You want me to meet your family? Is that okay? Vela considered this. In Corvani culture, introducing a potential mate to one's family is a formal declaration of intent. It means you are claiming that person as your own. Jiho's heart skipped. Is that what this is? Vela pulled him closer, careful and gentle. They were almost face to face now. NM, her violet eyes searching his brown ones. I don't know yet, she admitted. But I want to find out. The door opened suddenly. Coral stood there, took one look at their position, and immediately started backing away. I did not see anything, he said quickly. I am leaving now. There is no emergency. Please continue. The door closed. Jiho and Vela looked at each other and burst out laughing. It was the first time Jiho had heard her really laugh. A rich, warm sound that made something in his chest bloom like a flower. He is never going to let me forget this, Vela said, wiping her eyes. Probably not. He will tell everyone on the ship. Definitely, Vela sighed. I should care about my reputation. I should worry about how this looks. Do you? She smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Jiho had ever seen. Not even a little. That evening, Jiho called his mother. He tried to explain the situation, that he was sort of dating an alien warrior commander, that she was 7 feet tall and 200 years old, that she blushed purple when embarrassed. His mother listened to all of this in silence. Then she asked one question. Is she kind? Jiho thought about Vela, about how she had learned to bow to the elderly, about how she brought small gifts to the embassy staff, about how she stood between him and danger without hesitation. Yes, he said. She's kind. Then bring her for Chuseok. I'll make extra food. Jiho hung up and stared at his phone for a long moment. His mother really was something else. The message arrived at midnight, encrypted in the highest military code. Vela read it 3 times, her face growing colder with each word. Beside her in the observation deck, Jiho noticed immediately. What's wrong? She didn't answer at first. She just stood there, looking out at the stars, her reflection ghost-like in the window. 2 months had passed since the attack. 2 months of learning each other, of growing closer, of quietly building something neither of them had expected. The High Council has summoned me home, she finally said. Her voice was flat, empty. There have been concerns about my conduct. What kind of concerns? Vela turned to face him. In the dim light, her violet eyes seemed darker than usual. They believe I have been contaminated by human culture, that I have forgotten my place as a Corvani warrior. She paused. There are whispers that I have grown soft. Jiho felt ice form in his stomach. Because of me? Because of everything. The peace talks. My refusal to execute Harvick. She hesitated. My attachment to a human. Can't you refuse? Tell them you have duties here? Vela shook her head. A summons from the High Council cannot be refused. To do so would be treason. I must return and prove my loyalty, or— She stopped. Or what? Or I will be stripped of my command, my fleet, my honor. Her voice cracked slightly. Everything I have spent 2 centuries building. Jiho stepped closer and took her hand. She gripped it tightly, perhaps too tightly. But he didn't complain. How long will you be gone? I don't know. Weeks, months. She looked at him with an expression he had never seen before: fear. Real, honest fear. Jiho, I may not be able to return at all. If the council rules against me, then we'll figure it out. We'll find a way. You don't understand. This is not something that can be fought. Not something clever words can fix. She pulled her hand away and turned back to the window. I think it would be better if I left without telling you. A clean break. Easier for both of us. Easier for who? For you. You can move on. Find someone human. Someone who will live as long as you. Who understands your world. Who— Vela. Jiho's voice was sharp enough to make her stop. Look at me. Vela. 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 She didn't move. Look at me. Slowly, she turned. Her eyes were wet. If you leave without saying goodbye, Jiho said quietly, I will never forgive you. Not because it hurts me, though it will, but because it means you still think running away is stronger than facing things together. I am not running. I am protecting you. From what? From loving you? He stepped closer again, close enough to see his reflection in her eyes. You've spent 200 years being the strongest person in every room, but being strong doesn't mean being alone. It means trusting someone enough to be weak with them. Vela's face crumpled. Just for a moment. Just a crack in the armor she had worn her whole life. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to need someone. It terrifies me. It terrifies me too. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and pulled him into an embrace, gentle despite her strength, like she was holding something infinitely precious. I have to go, she said into his hair. I know, but I am not leaving. I am coming back. Do you understand? Whatever the council decides, whatever I have to do, I am coming back to you. Jiho held her tighter. Promise? Corvani do not break promises. It would be dishonorable. She left the next morning. The warship rose silently into the gray dawn sky, carrying her toward a homeworld she hadn't seen in decades, toward a trial that could take everything from her. She had left a message on his tablet. Just one sentence. Wait for me. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Jiho returned to his old job at the translation office, but his heart wasn't in it. He checked his messages constantly, hoping for any news from the Corvani homeworld. There was nothing. His colleagues treated him strangely. Some with sympathy, some with curiosity, some with barely hidden judgment. The man who fell in love with an alien. What had he expected? His mother called every day. Any word? Any word. Nothing yet. She'll be fine. She's strong. I know. But strength wasn't always enough. Jiho knew that better than anyone. On the 24th day, he made a decision. It took 3 days to arrange. Calling in every favor. Contacting every diplomat he had ever worked with. Spending money he didn't really have on translator fees and communication protocols. Finally, he got a response. The Corvani ambassador to Earth, a stern old warrior named Talrik, agreed to meet with him. This is highly unusual, Talrik said, looking at Jiho like he was examining an interesting insect. No human has ever requested an audience with the High Council. I know. You understand that the Council may refuse. Or worse, they may agree, and then execute you for impertinence. I understand. Talrik leaned back in his chair. Why would you take such a risk? For a woman who may already have lost everything, Jiho thought about how to answer. He thought about all the speeches he could give, all the explanations about human love and loyalty and stubbornness. Instead, he said simply, because she's worth it. Talrik studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, his weathered face changed. Something that might have been respect flickered in his ancient eyes. The council will find this amusing, he said. A human demanding to speak with the rulers of an empire that could destroy his planet in a heartbeat. I'm not demanding. I'm asking. Even so, Talrik made a note on his tablet. I will forward your request. What happens next is not up to me. Jiho nodded. Don't thank me yet, human. You may have just signed your own death warrant. Jiho went home and waited. He didn't tell his mother what he had done. She would only worry. The response came 5 days later. It was short. It was formal. It made no sense. Your request is granted. Transport will arrive at coordinates 37.566, 5 degrees north, 126.97, 80 degrees, east in 48 hours. Bring nothing. Tell no one. Jiho looked at the coordinates. They were in the middle of Seoul, right next to his apartment building. He was going to the Corvani homeworld. He was going to face the High Council. He was either going to bring Vela home, or he was going to die trying. His hands were shaking as he packed a small bag with things he might need: photos of his family, a translation tablet, a bag of the old woman's rice cakes. Offerings, maybe. Luck, definitely. At the door, he paused. He looked back at his apartment. The messy desk, the half-read books, the indent on the couch where Vela had sat just weeks ago, her long legs cramped in the small space. Wait for me, he whispered to the empty room. Then he walked out into the night, toward whatever was coming next. The Corvani homeworld was called Tharvex, and it was the most terrifying place Jiho had ever seen. The planet was harsh, cold, and beautiful in a deadly way. Mountains of black stone rose from plains of gray ice. The sky was a deep purple, with 3 moons hanging low on the horizon. Everything looked sharp, hard, unforgiving, just like its people. The transport ship landed in the capital city, a sprawling fortress of obsidian towers and military installations. Corvani warriors lined the streets, each one taller and more intimidating than the last. They stared at Jiho as he walked past the first human most of them had ever seen. He tried not to look scared. He failed. The High Council chambers were at the heart of the city, in a building that seemed to pierce the purple sky. The guards at the entrance looked at Jiho like he was an insect that had wandered into a lion's den. The human, one of them said. We were told you were coming. Here I am. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. The guard actually smiled at that. A quick flash of teeth that might have been respect. Go in, little human. The council is waiting. The chamber was massive. Pillars of black stone reached up to a ceiling lost in shadows. Torches burned with cold blue fire along the walls. And at the far end, on a raised platform, sat the High Council of the Corvani Empire. There were 5 of them. Ancient warriors with faces like carved stone. Their eyes were hard, their posture rigid, their presence crushing. Jiho felt like a mouse walking into a room full of eagles. And there, standing before the platform, was Vela. She looked terrible. Her silver hair was tangled. Her face was drawn and pale. Her uniform was different, simpler, without the marks of rank she usually wore. She turned when Jiho entered, and her eyes went wide. Jiho. Her voice was barely a whisper. What are you doing here? Coming to get you. You cannot be here. This is a formal tribunal. Humans have no standing. The council granted my request, Jiho said, walking toward her. Vela looked at the council in disbelief. The eldest of them, a massive warrior with white hair and a face full of scars, spoke. The human's request was unprecedented. We were curious. What kind of creature would willingly walk into our domain? His voice echoed through the chamber. Now, we shall see. Jiho reached Vela's side and stood next to her. She was trembling slightly. He had never seen her tremble before. State your purpose, human, the elder said. Why have you come before the High Council of the Corvani Empire? Jiho took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech 100 times on the journey here. Now, standing in this terrifying room, all his prepared words seemed inadequate. So he threw them away and spoke from the heart. I came because you're wrong about her, he said. His voice was small in the vast chamber. But it didn't shake. You think Commander Thanos has become weak because she learned to understand humans. You think emotions make her less of a warrior. Ask and suit. Ask and sue. Ask and suit. You think emotions. Ask and suit. You presume to tell us what we think? Another council member asked, her voice cold as ice. I'm just saying what I've observed. Vela Commander Thanos is the strongest person I've ever known. Not because she can fight, though she can. Not because she commands armies, though she does. She's strong because she had the courage to change. The council was silent. Watching. Waiting. Your empire conquers with fear. Jiho continued. That's effective. But humans, we've survived everything the universe has thrown at us because we love things enough to fight for them, even when we're scared, even when we'll lose. That's not weakness. That's the most terrifying thing in existence. He looked at the elder directly. A warrior who can only fight is just a weapon. A warrior who can fight, and also love, and also change, and also be gentle. When gentleness is needed, that's something more. That's someone you can't defeat, because there's no amount of pain that will make them stop. Jiho turned to Vela. She was staring at him with tears in her eyes. You came here to tell me I'm contaminated, he said to the council. That human influence has made your commander soft. But you're wrong. She hasn't become less Corvani. She's become more. She's become something that combines the best of both our peoples, your strength, our heart. He faced the council again. You want to strip her of her command? Fine. You want to exile her? Fine. But she's coming with me either way, because I'm not leaving this planet without her. Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other, their expressions unreadable. Then the elder spoke. You are a strange creature, human. You walk into the heart of our empire, alone and unarmed, and you speak to the High Council as though you have any power here. I don't have power, Jiho said. I have something better. I have nothing to lose. Nothing? My life? Doesn't matter without her. My future? Means nothing if she's not in it. Jiho reached out and took Vela's hand. She gripped it like a lifeline. So no, I have nothing to lose. Which means, you can't threaten me. You can't scare me. You can only kill me. And if you do that, you prove everything I just said, that your empire is so afraid of change. It has to destroy anything different. The elder leaned back in his seat. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, incredibly, he laughed. It was a deep, rusty sound, like a machine that hadn't been used in years. The other council members looked at him in shock. In 400 years on this council, the elder said, I have never seen anything like this. A creature that should be prey, standing before predators, demanding we release our own commander to him. He shook his head slowly. Either your species is insane, human, or you are the bravest being I have ever met. Maybe both, Jiho said. Another laugh. Yes, perhaps both. The elder looked at Vela. Commander Thanos, what say you? This human claims you have become something more than Corvani. Do you agree? 8. Vela straightened. Her voice was steady when she spoke. I was raised to believe that emotion was weakness, that isolation made us strong, that fear was the only path to power. She paused. But in the last months, I have learned something different. I have learned that trust can be a weapon, that kindness can be armor, that love, real love, the kind that makes you stronger, not weaker, is the most powerful force I have ever encountered. She stepped forward, standing tall before the council. I am still Corvani. I still serve the Empire. But I am also more than I was, and I will not apologize for that. The council was quiet. Then, one by one, they began to nod. The human has given us much to consider, the elder said finally. Commander Thanos, you are dismissed from this tribunal. Your rank and command are restored. Vela's eyes widened. Restored? Do not make us repeat ourselves. The elder waved a dismissive hand. Take your human and go. We have other matters to attend to. Jiho and Vela walked out of the chamber in a daze. Neither of them spoke until they were outside, in the cold, purple twilight of the alien world. Then Vela grabbed Jiho and kissed him. It was awkward and desperate and perfect. She was crying. He might have been crying too. Neither of them cared. You came for me, she whispered against his lips. I promised. You are insane. Probably. She pulled back and looked at him with those violet eyes, silver-flecked and shining with tears. I love you, she said. I don't know if I have ever said those words to anyone, but I am saying them now. I love you. Park. Jiho. I love you too, Vela Thanos. She smiled, then the full, real smile that she had learned on Earth. It transformed her face, made her look young and happy and beautiful. We should go home, she said. My mother wants to meet you. Jiho blinked. You have a mother? Of course I have a mother. She is 400 years old and very intimidating. She will probably threaten to kill you. Sounds fun. Also, your mother has invited us for Chuseok. She sent 17 messages. Jiho groaned. Of course she did. They walked hand in hand toward the transport ship, a human and a Corvani, two people from different worlds who had found something neither of them expected. Behind them, the purple sky blazed with 3 moons. Ahead of them, the stars waited, and somewhere in between, a future neither of them could predict, but both of them were ready to face together. 1 year later, news spread across the galaxy. The Corvani and the humans had formed an alliance, the first time the fearsome empire had ever treated another species as equals. Other races were confused. The Corvani were warriors. The humans were soft. What could they possibly offer each other? The answer became clear when a hostile empire threatened Corvani space. The Corvani fought with disciplined ferocity. The humans fought with terrifying creativity, strange tactics, improvised weapons, and an absolute refusal to surrender. Leading the combined fleet, Admiral Vela Thanos and her husband, Park Jiho, who still called her cute during battle briefings. She still blushed every time. And humanity? Humanity looked up at the stars and smiled. They had made it. They had proven themselves. They had found their place in a universe full of warriors and monsters and ancient empires, not by being the strongest, not by being the most dangerous, but by being exactly what they had always been, soft, stubborn, and absolutely impossible to stop.